People are starting to get back to work, and obviously social distancing is still a thing, a bigger thing than ever. And we started to talk about this idea of, being able to examine the patient from a distance. And I know that you guys have actually been doing this for quite some time, but it's funny that people, until this pandemic, didn't really care as much, right? It was a nice to have, and now it's like an, oh my gosh, this is a must have. I have to do this. So thanks for being here. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you have going on, and you have the system called Eye Refract, and I can put it up on the screen for people. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Well, the Eye Refract by Luneau Technology is a highly automated phoropter combined with Wavefront aberrometry-based autorefraction, which is quite a mouthful. Okay, but it is run by a tablet. Okay. And it is unique in the marketplace. What makes it unique is that it's dynamic and binocular in its measurement using the Shack-Hartman aberrometry, okay? Which combined with algorithm-driven steps, it helps the operator find the most comfortable prescription for the patient. The refraction takes roughly 4 minutes or so and is not operator dependent. So that's what makes that
excellent,
exciting.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the screen right now, and I'm actually seeing, you're right, it looks like a bog standard Android tablet, and so you actually can hold that away from the patient when you're using the device?
You can. You absolutely can. So you can even remote into the tablet. Let's say you have decided to allow a technician, for instance, to run this. That's what the algorithm-driven steps aids. It has actually very specific instructions. Do this. Now do this. Next, go here, okay? And so the doctor can remote into the tablet and actually see what's happening and make sure they like it or add anything if they want to.
Right, and
the flexible in that way.
And the actual exam itself is pretty reproducible, right? It's I don't want to say idiot-proof because nothing's idiot-proof, but the technology actually tries to really assist in the exam.
Sure, we have we actually have an ARVO study that addresses that very issue, with accuracy and repeatability in the refractions that the Eye Refract gets, that you can access on our website if you wanted.
Very cool, yeah, and actually I'm seeing also you have a bunch of content in your booth as well. I don't know if people have had the chance yet to get here today at CEWire, but if you stumble on into the exhibit hall and you can click on your booth, and people can actually learn a lot more. There's a bunch of stuff to download.
Absolutely, and there is a white paper that we just came out with called Better Data, Improved Efficiency, that's at our booth that you can download for free there. And we have the ARVO study that we just mentioned, the clinical trial, that you can download from our website at luneautechusa.com. And you just go under Eye Refract and you'll find both the white paper there and the ARVO study.
Yep. And Dan, we just interviewed Sue Resnick. She's a practitioner in New York, talking about how, sort of how she's optimizing her practice, how she's not back to full volume yet in terms of her patients, but she's keeping busy, but she's doing it way more efficiently. And her revenue per patient is actually, pretty much staying the same or going higher. So she's, you have this concept of better busy, and I'm wondering if you want to just delve into that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I can't tell you how much time Deidre and I have spent together doing virtual demonstrations of the product. Deidre is located in Washington State, and I'm here in Chicago, and we'll show off Eye Refract to an OD in Florida or New York or wherever. So for us, it's been kind of a better busy as well, not so much airplane travel. But as it relates to an OD, I kind of frame it like this. We talked about our digital phoropter yesterday. And tablet-driven process, again, allows an OD to be 6 feet away or 6 miles away from a traditional refraction. With Eye Refract, we don't look at it so much as an evolution, but more of really a revolution in terms of practice management. Of course, because it is tablet-driven, you can still maintain that 6 feet distance between the patient. But what's really obviously different about Eye Refract is you are delegating the refractive process, or the collection of refractive data. And where it's revolutionary is really it's the accuracy and reproducibility of the instrument allows a busy practice to confidently delegate the refraction process. And again, always talk about refraction in terms of subjective and objective pieces, two different steps, one done by a technician and the other done by an OD. Eye Refract allows that process to be smushed into one 4-minute process. And importantly, it's really a non-specialized technician. There are some products on the market today that are really good products that are in a similar space, that are sitting in the pretest room. But you might have to travel to another state and train for a week to learn how to use it. You're becoming a mini refractionist. With Eye Refract, because it is very script driven, highly automated, and kind of combines an ARK with a 4-opter, it just allows the tech to get a very accurate prescription, final prescription, in about 4 minutes. And that really opens up telepractice opportunities for ODs, business expansion with a really different labor model, while ensuring really the OD remains in control of the process. Eye Refract allows collection of data, but it puts the OD, of course, in place to make a final decision on whether or not they agree with that refraction, that final prescription, or not.
Right. And
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. And how does it actually work with the data collection? How does the data get, in and out of the system, right, and into the EHR or wherever else it needs to go?
Sure. I rub it on the side and do a little prayer, and the data always just shows up. No, after the tech does the refractive process, you have this Android tablet, and there's a kind of a data way station built into the Eye Refract. And really the output of the device, when you think about it, it's a highly complex device from an algorithm point of view, but the output is really not that different than a specialized ARK. It's sending out a data string that most EMRs today capture fairly seamlessly. We already have existing relationships with many of the larger EMR players out there. So the real concept that sometimes gets lost is your technician's in the pretest room and runs the patient through Eye Refract, as well as likely a retinal scan, NCT, whatever. The OD, before the patient ever comes into the traditional exam lane, the OD is theoretically now going to see kind of a full suite of information on that patient before the patient shows up in the exam room. You'll have an idea of eye health, retina, NCT, et cetera. And now the last piece of data, which is their final prescription, shows up as well.
Yep. You know what's shocking to me? I actually I have it pulled up on the screen right now. The footprint of this thing, right? The industrial design, it's tiny. It's packing a lot of
cool,
technology.
Right?
It's packing a ton of technology into a very small space, and I'm going to blow it up here so people can see it. That's kind of crazy.
Well, don't blow it up too big. It's small.
Right.
Yeah, it's basically on a bespoke table, less than 4 feet long and about 1.5 feet wide. We have literally some ODs who are in a city area where $1 per square foot is really expensive, and they're operating it in essentially kind of a smaller, we won't call it a closet. It is a pretest room, but it's really small. And that short chart that you see there, it's a new innovation. The Eye Refract itself is the 2nd generation product. It's been on the market for about 4 years, and the short chart is one of the newer innovations that we came up with to accommodate space issues that are obviously very common in this market.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. We actually also saw some ODs taking some novel approaches, right, with the sort of quote new normal, where they're actually moving. We saw one where they moved all their pretest equipment outside, literally out into the parking lot, where patients are driving up and getting a lot of their pretesting done, which I thought was hilarious, but actually a really creative solution to these problems. So it's interesting.
Sure, it's one way to do it, unless it rains, right?
Exactly, right. I was holding my breath watching this. I'm like thinking about how much all that equipment costs, so they just put on these carts outside. I'm like, man. But it is interesting. People are coming up with these sort of unique methods of working now. It's fascinating to me in this new normal that we have.
And for us, we have seen a real spike in our virtual demos, because I think look, anytime you've got a market that's growing, there's not a ton of need for disruptive change. Sometimes that comes with some pain. But now that we have this concept of social distancing that's so important for the health of patients, technicians, and ODs, our new normal does involve distance, right? And we don't just think about the OD herself, we think about the technicians who operate the instrumentation. I would recommend, as a scalable model, probably not moving your pretest room out to a parking lot. I would say keep your instrumentation in a pretest room and just simply ensure that your instrumentation, and I'm a sales guy, so this is going to be kind of self-serving. Look, automated, easy to use, and tablet driven, so that your tech or the OD can be 6 feet or 6 miles away. That's what Luneau does really, really well. The other bit that we try to do for our clients is ensure that we've got clinical application specialists, because change does come hard. And I think we saw an opportunity to do a better job consulting with our clients to ensure that these complex instruments that are coming onto the market, we can help not just talk about, a Shack-Hartman aberrometry and dynamic binocular eye refract, but the impact on a patient workflow, the impact on how an OD might expand their practice beyond 1 or 2 clinics with a different type of labor model with Eye Refract. So, our new normal for a business as Luneau is about being a better partner to eye care professionals out there. And look, we've never just tried to sell an instrument. We've always tried to be a good consultative partner. But I think that is almost more important now, because so many things are changing. And look, these are a lot of people's businesses are on the line, and we all feel that pressure to I think get it right. And I just think Luneau Technology and our products facilitate a little bit more business flexibility and meet some of the needs that are cropping up with COVID.
Right, and you mentioned that you're doing a lot of remote meetings now, so I guess this is part and parcel of the new tech. If people want to implement this in their practice, is that a good mode of training that you guys will do, where the clinical application specialist can just jump right on and help people?
Yeah, 100%. Deidre, you want to go ahead and answer some?
Yeah, I wanted to say absolutely. It makes us more accessible, right? We can just remote into the tablet and see what question they might have, or what may be an issue. So remote is certainly part of training. Hands-on is another part, but it just gives us flexibility for depending on what the needs are.
Right. So Deidre, do you ever have to hit the road and go into people's offices around the Pacific Northwest, or do you do most of your stuff just remote?
Well, I mean, depends. To me, it depends on the practice, and it depends on where they are in their state as far as what's open, right, and what their comfort level is with someone coming in versus remote. So we just have the flexibility to adjust to where they are in their state. Some practices are starting to see patients, and whatever their guidelines are for their office, we try to respect that, and we'll come in. If they're like, no, we don't, then we can do everything remote. So we have choices.
Great.
And are able to be flexible.
A question from a practicing traditional optometrist. Although I'm not one of them, this would be a question that the basic refraction was their bread and butter, and now the instruments are saying, well, in 4 minutes we'll do a great objective, and clinically we'll be able to modify the prescription. Most optometrists that are very traditional fear that the judgment of making that final prescription takes a lot of old-time training. How does the unit compensate for a present objective refraction to what the patient has come in wearing with their present glasses, which might need a lot of modification from what's objective?
Sure. So if I understand your question, let's say the patient comes in and their refraction that they bring with them because they've broken a current set of glasses or something, and they come in with a 10-year-old prescription, but that's information that the instrument has. If there's a big difference from the refraction that is done by the Wavefront versus what they came in wearing, it's going to flag that, okay, and bring it up, say the cylinder is really different or the axis is really different. It's going to flag that for the technician, and there'll be choices. The thing is, it doesn't take away the need for that expertise by any means. What it does is create a way for the that expertise to be better utilized. Okay, the technician is then guided through to the more simpler refraction, that more straightforward. You can have more time to perhaps address a more medical issues. But you're going to have your unaided vision. You're going to have what they're wearing. You're going to have still all the data that you would need before you would normally do a refraction. But you're even going to have that refraction. And does this make sense? So you're still going to have the pieces of the puzzle that you need, and you still have, you can still check that, okay, and put in checks and balances. But it allows you to focus on those challenges.
So basically, the rule of thumb, the old timers would say never change a refraction more than plus or minus 50 and more than 10 degrees axis.
Right.
So basically, the unit would flag them and then allow
and then you would need to,
the optometrist, or we call him a technician, to make that final judgment. The unit
That's
wouldn't
correct.
do it.
That is correct. It does not have decision making. Go ahead,
right,
Dan.
if I can butt in just for a second. So we'll train, of course, our clinicals will train the OD what they're looking at. And the old rule of thumb is absolutely still the old rule of thumb. We are just allowing a tech to collect the data. And to Deidre's point, the Eye Refract is an objective process. It's going to spit out the new refraction without necessarily commenting on, hey, this is outside the range or not, other than on a data set say, hey, this is outside scope, which is why we say the OD is still very much in charge of the process. He or she is making the final decision. And I can tell you, our experience is that for the first couple weeks, clients want very much to put their hands on the patient and test the refraction versus their own skill. And that usually goes away after a couple weeks or a couple days, because what they find is that Eye Refract is really spot on, consistent, and will help them flag those patients that have something funky going on.
Right. Okay, good.
Yep. Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of your comfort with technology, I suppose, right? And Paul, I think your generation is, I don't want to say obsolete. That's not the right word. But but you know,
whoa,
you know,
we didn't say that.
That's going to be a virtual fist fight.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Good. I don't know.
Steve Silberg, I have a question. Does
there you go.
also generate a refraction for night vision as well as day vision, giving the patient perhaps 2 prescriptions that the doctor could talk to them about?
Deidre?
I'm thinking about that question.
Yeah,
good to
do that, but they didn't work. This is in the past, though.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear the whole question.
Other technologies supposed that they were able to do that, but it didn't work out. So I was wondering if yours has that capability to do it under night vision conditions as well as day, because the prescription apparently does vary a little bit. The wavefront analysis does also as your pupil expands, etc.
It does create that data. If you want that data to be, either printed out or sent. And again, that just goes to, it's more data for the optometrist to make just a decision on. It gives a mesopic and photopic pupil reading and the measurement that goes along with that. But in general, it's something you turn on, okay, to do if it's data that you want. You can decide, right, to toggle it on or off if you want.
Okay, great. A question that came up yesterday with the fact that people can't kick the tires at conventions. Do you sometimes have the instruments in as loaners, and then the people can kick the tires, learn how to use it, and decide whether to purchase?
Yeah, usually what we've gotten in the habit of doing, frankly speaking, is first we do the virtual demo, and we've got a pretty nice room set up. You can see the physicality of the instrument. Because I am not a practicing application specialist or an OD, I tend to be the test dummy. Deidre will run me through a refractive process, and for the client, for the doctor who's looking at the instrument, it is a really effective way to kick the tires, for sure. Beyond that, if they have continued interest in the product, of course, we can always arrange for on-site demonstration. Usually those last a couple days, and we'll have a clinical go there and work with the staff. And what's really kind of funny and interesting is it's a challenge for ODs to kind of get it, but ultimately the product is used every day, typically, most typically, by a technician in the pre-test room. So the ODs very much want to be over the shoulder and look and feel, and I totally get that. We try to counsel, look, let's make sure your tech is comfy collecting the data, and let's make sure you, doctor, are comfy seeing what you see in your exam lane.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's kind of that is one of the more mental shifts that we have to pay attention to.
So, and that's the part that in a virtual demonstration, that's the part you get to experience. You are looking over what the tech sees. So you can see how the technology guides the whole process.
Yep. So Steve, in your office, right? I mean, I know that you just retired, and congratulations on that. But I know certainly you're no Luddite, right? You've implemented a lot of high-tech stuff. Could you say,
this would be something I would jump on in a second. Unfortunately, I just retired in January to pursue other things, and this would be something that would make us far more efficient, delegating refraction. The interesting thing, though, is certain states do not allow you to do that, so the doctor does have to, in quotes, check that particular set of data, but that's a relatively easy thing to do in most offices. In other states, they can, and I would think that in ophthalmology offices it would fly also. So that's correct. This would be a great technology to see more patients and be more accurate and create a wow factor as well as more efficiency.
Yep. Absolutely.
You bring up the wow factor. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Deidre.
I was just going to say that patients definitely have their experience is really something they respond to right away. They're like, oh, that was actually fun, and so the process, one of the things that makes it a little bit different is that by the time the patient is actually comparing which is better, one or two, they're looking through two really clear lenses, okay? Instead of, give me, these are both going to be blurry, like with Jackson Cross, right? These are both going to be blurry. Tell me which is least blurry, which is the most stressful part of the refraction. And so it's hard for them. Well, this is an efficient refraction, but they are actually, the experience for them is that it's fun. That was, oh, wow, that was easy. And
it's comfortable.
It's a perception. Yeah, it's comfortable. They find that it finds that comfortable refraction, and they respond very well to it.
And I bet you they feel more in control also, rather than.
They do. They do.
I had a lot of PRSs from Marco, which were not similar to this, but when I refract myself with the dots rather than the JCC, I don't know if you're familiar with that, getting them equal. I wasn't comfortable, and I'm rotating the wheel myself to do my own refraction. So, and that's with a pretty high-tech instrument. So this definitely is a couple of steps above.
How do you manage the prism if there's a prismatic problem in the refraction?
So it does have the capability of doing a more detailed refraction than that. However, the best, it depends on how you want to use it. I would think that you would keep that level of a refraction maybe directly in your hands, in your manual phoropter or whatever you use in your office now to do that, and send in the other, maybe 90% of your patients through the Eye Refract. Does that make sense? Could you do it? Yes, it would just take a more skilled operator to be able to run that, and certainly more than probably 4 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
Steve,
I just wanted to circle back to one issue.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We talked a little bit about Eye Refract, and you're delegating the process of data collection to a technician. We always recommend, of course, or train to this standard. The OD, the eye care professional, always reviews and signs off on the prescription. And of course, there will be times when the OD says, hey, you know what? I need to refract this person myself, and may come up with a slightly different final. And that's fine. We are not advocating that a technician does refraction without the OD reviewing it. So I believe that process, provided the OD is on site and lays eyes on the patient in the consult room or exam lane, that's fine in every state as far as I'm aware, and I'm fairly aware. When you're in a telepractice setting and the OD is off-site, then you run into some different state-by-state guidelines, and those are, of course, loosening and changing this day and age as well. So didn't want to butt in, but I just want to make sure that we were clear from our perspective how we train.
Yep.
And that initial question that Paul just asked, you're neutralizing the person's old glasses, and let's say there's vertical prism in them of significant amount. Will that be incorporated into the refraction that you do?
Again, when you're... Yeah, it is. When you're getting into a more detailed... Go ahead.
Well, and this is at the risk of being extremely non-technical. Sometimes it's helpful to get a sense of the process. The patient's original prescription goes through a lens analyzer. That's kind of your first step. So their original prescription, their eyeglasses, go into a lens analyzer that uses Wavefront and collects 1,300 data points per lens. That information is fed into Eye Refract. And is part of the algorithm that develops the final prescription. Of course, the refractive process itself and the dynamic binocular wavefront is the most important process, but existing prescription certainly is part of the mathematics, because at the end of the 4-minute process, the tech is, and Deidre already said this, which do you like better? This one, click, or this one, click, and you're basically showing them your old prescription and your new prescription right there. So I know that doesn't necessarily address the technical side of your question, but hopefully that gives you a sense of the process.
Sure. If they say, yeah, that's great, I see great, but I see double, now you clue into the old and you kind of have to do a few more steps. But that's going to be the great minority of patients.
That's correct.
Right? And to the point, this is why we do on-site training. We have scripting that says for the technician, okay, thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry you see double. Let's go see Dr. Farkas now, and he's going to make sure you see perfectly only once, So you keep your workflow going. I wouldn't ask, and this is, I think, what Deidre was getting at, I wouldn't ask a technician to resolve that issue. This is why we talk about a better busy. I want my OD to operate at the top of their license and take those challenging patients. Right? Not the ones where you're whipping through and it's just the old glasses last year and the new glasses this year. The complex cases, that is, to some, a better busy. That's where you operate at the top of your license and you're taking the hard ones, not hurting your shoulders, spinning dials with, people who come every year to get a minor adjustment.
Right.
But you have 97% of the data anyway from the initial workup.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, great. So if people want to actually get on board with this and book a virtual demo, is it as easy as just going to your website? I have it up on the screen right now, and just click book a virtual demo?
You got it. Operators are standing by. Yeah, for sure.
That's right.
Excellent.
And if you're really lucky, I can be your dummy patient too,
Oh, there you go. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for being here today. And again, I urge everybody to go into your booth and check it out. And this interview will also, again, be up on ODWire and CEWire by the end of the weekend when we cut it all up. So if there are questions there, I'm sure we can bring you back in for you to answer them. So thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, guys.